There is something nobody tells you about the men who made it. Not the motivational speakers. Not the books. Not the podcasts. What separates the men who rise from the men who rot is not what you think it is. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is not even discipline, at least not the way most people understand it. By the end of this video, you will learn something that has been hidden in plain sight for centuries. Something the greatest minds in history understood but almost never said out loud. And believe me, it will change how you see yourself. Dante Alighieri, the Italian poet who wrote the most enduring work in Western literature, made a decision that most people overlook when they read him. He didn't place the worst sinners in the deepest pit of hell. He placed the neutral ones there. The men who never chose. Who woke up every morning, moved through the day, and went to sleep without ever making a real decision about who they were becoming. In Dante's vision, these men were chasing a blank flag. Forever. Because they never chose a flag when they had the chance. And here is what Dante understood that almost no one else has articulated this clearly: rotting is not a dramatic fall. It is the slow accumulation of nothing. It is the man who tells himself he will start tomorrow. Who rests a little more than he should. Who avoids the conversation that needed to happen. Who chooses the comfortable lie over the uncomfortable truth, every single day, until one morning he looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize what he sees. Rising is not the opposite of rotting. Rising is simply the refusal to stand still. But here is the question that nobody asks, and the answer is more disturbing than anything Dante wrote. You already know which direction you are moving. The question is, do you know why? And to answer that, we have to go somewhere most men are afraid to look. In 1949, a neuroscientist named Donald Hebb published a principle that would change how we understand the human brain forever. Neurons that fire together, wire together. What this means in plain language is this: every action you take, every decision, every moment of discipline or every moment of avoidance, physically reshapes the structure of your brain. This is not metaphor. This is neuroscience. The man who avoids difficulty every morning builds neural pathways of avoidance. The man who faces difficulty every morning builds neural pathways of confrontation. Over months, over years, the brain becomes the biography. The rotten man is not weak because he was born that way. He is weak because he trained himself to be one small retreat at a time, until retreat became reflex, until reflex became identity, until identity became fate. And here is what should unsettle you even more. This process is invisible while it is happening. The man who is rotting does not feel himself rotting. He feels reasonable. He feels like he deserves the rest. He feels like tomorrow is soon enough. That feeling is not peace. That feeling is decay wearing the mask of comfort. But if the science tells us that the brain rewires through repetition, then there is something far more important you need to understand about the men who rise. Because the men who rise are not running on motivation. They are running on something much older, much darker, much more reliable. And that is where we go next. Kobe Bryant was once asked what separated him from other players. He didn't say talent. He said, "I decided who I was before I felt like it." That sentence is the entire philosophy of rising, compressed into 12 words. The men who rise do not wait for the feeling. They do not wait for motivation, for inspiration, for the perfect moment, for the stars to align. They made a decision, once, quietly, often alone, about what kind of man they were going to be. And then they became that man in their actions before they became him in their feelings. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals, words he never intended for anyone else to read: "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This was not a motivational poster. This was a man talking to himself at 4 in the morning about the weight of an empire he did not ask for. The rising man does not feel strong every day. He does not feel certain. He does not feel ready. He simply acts as if he is, repeatedly, until the acting becomes the reality. But there is a final piece to this that almost no one talks about. Because identity alone is not enough. There is a specific moment, a window, narrow and easy to miss, where the rising man and the rotting man make the decision that defines everything. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every morning, between the moment you wake up and the moment you make your first real choice, there is a window. Psychologists call it the hypnopompic state. The brief period where the conscious mind is not yet fully online and the subconscious is still running the program from the night before. In that window, something happens. A negotiation. Your body, ancient, biological, optimized for survival not for greatness, whispers to you. Stay. Rest. It's warm. You've done enough. Tomorrow. The rotting man listens. Not because he is weak, but because he has trained himself to listen. The rising man recognizes the voice and moves anyway. Not because it is easy. Not because he doesn't feel the pull. Because he decided, long before that moment, that the voice was not him. The voice is the animal. The decision is the man. Epictetus, born a slave, became one of the most powerful philosophical minds in history, said it this way, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He said this as a man who had no freedom, no property, no power over anything external. And yet he was freer than any emperor he served under. Because he had mastered the window. The difference between rising and rotting is not the big decisions. It is the small window. Every morning. Without exception. And the men who understand this carry something inside them that cannot be taken, cannot be broken, cannot decay. The men who rise and the men who rot begin in the same place. The difference is made in the moments no one sees. In the morning. In the silence. In the window. You already know which man you are becoming. If this reached something in you, leave a like. It takes 1 second. Subscribe if you are not here yet. The next video goes further.